Pep Guardiola says that Kyle Walker cannot play in his current tactical system and therefore will struggle to get back into the Man City team. Too many Crubans. So what next for Kyle Walker? What does he do? How will he get back in this team? And what is the system that Guardiola is talking about? Well, it looks a bit like this 3-2-5 kind of shape. And what happens is in build-up play, they have 3 centre-backs that can play through a double pivot of John Stones and Rodri. But in defensive phases, Stones can drop back into this back 4. So then you get 4 centre-backs all close together. Very useful. It's a big advantage, especially when you're defending against set pieces or from crosses into the box. You get 4 big lads. Also, Rodri can drop back into the last line. Then you've got 5 big lads, which is better than 4. And it's an ever so slight variation in what they were doing earlier in the season, where the back 4 was more of a 4, and we'll take Stones out and put in, say, Rico Lewis. So then what you had was the right back would basically become an inside midfielder. So they would move like this. And of course then the advantage you can see is clear because Rico Lewis is quite a small player, very neat and tidy, but is not as big as someone like Stones. And so you gain an advantage in this situation here by having that. But why can't Kyle Walker do this? Because he's a very good player. Well, Pep Guardiola has the answer and he says he can't do it. He says to play inside, you have to have some educated movements. He has other characteristics. He will always have pace. And the last time Guardiola started Kyle Walker in the Premier League was at right back. It was against Newcastle in a 2-0 win. He was decent enough in it, but he's played that right back role, asked to come inside the pitch as one of the inverted fullbacks rather than starting a centre back and pushing them back. So rather than having Stones in that position, they had Walker. Now, Walker, you can see his passing, it tends to be very cautious. They're shooting this way. And you can see a lot of the arrows are going backwards. So when he's in a tight position surrounded by players, he tends to opt for the very safe option, which is always backwards. It's not great if you're a possession team because the ball goes backwards, then the opposition team can press you up the pitch. If you look at the data that supports what Guardiola is saying, his passing isn't the best in the Man City team. It's still very, very good. So in context, it's amazing, right? These are all Man City's passes in the Premier League according to FBref. As you can see, lots of passes by everyone. Now, Manuel Kanji is very, very good at it. He's a ball-playing defender. This is total passes. His success rate is really high. Walker's is also really high. That's a really high score for a defender, it is in the Premier League. But it's worse than other players in that team. And we can narrow it down to short passes, where he's also quite low. But when you consider João Cancelo's kind of number here is kind of similar, but Cancelo is always up the pitch in central positions. Kyle Walker tends to be wide, so a lot of his short passes are going to be wide and going backwards. So this is a good number, but a lot of his passes are cautious, safe, and they're backwards. It doesn't progress it very much. And if you go on to medium passes, you see, again, that's where it starts to fall down a bit. So when you're trying to progress the ball, these medium range passes are going to get up the pitch, particularly in tight areas. That's where Walker's skill set doesn't suit him and why he's not suited exactly to this particular role. And this all makes sense because he is a defensive winger, really. He's not a ball-playing centre-back. That's not what Walker does. What you get from him are these kind of brilliant overlapping runs, which allows someone like Mahrez to move inside the pitch. That's what he does. And then when he's in these positions, he's faster than most players. So he can then take someone on 1v1, go past them, link with a 1-2, get in behind, and then he can try and put balls into the box. So he's been excellent at that for years, helping stay in the touchline, getting chalk on his boots so that you can spread the pitch out and make the defensive shape wider. That's what you want. And that's if he's in a back 4. I've put them in here. Now, if I put him in a 3, if I take out Laporte and play him as Diaz, Ake, and Walker, again, it makes total sense playing him here because when you're playing against a team with really, really good players, say Real Madrid, have Vinicius Jr. at that left wing position, what you've got is a player who's really, really fast. So if you've got Vinicius Jr. who's going to stay on the outside and try and get around you, Kyle Walker is exactly the kind of player who you want to be able to catch up with him. So when you get a ball played through, say Real Madrid managed to get Luka Modric into this sort of position here, that's the kind of pass that could absolutely kill you in a big game. Walker's got the pace to cover it. And that's why he's tended to start in those kind of games, because he's got that pace that can do that. Akanji's quick, but he's not as quick as Kyle Walker. So that's a big advantage you get from him there. But regardless of shape, whether they're a 4 or a 3, Walker tends to end up close to this touchline. That's what he does. Because as we know throughout his career, he's been an attacking fullback, a wing back, a defensive winger, whatever you want to call him. That's where he wants to play in these sorts of positions. Because if you put him in this situation, in this pivot role, and you get the ball into him here, the other team is going to squeeze him instantly, get really tight to him. He's got to make a decision. Now, as we said, keep saying, he's a really good player. So he'll find a way out sometimes. That's what you want. But if you lose the ball here, that's really bad because it's close to the goal. That's really bad. You don't want that to happen. And Walker can misplace passes, or more than likely than not, he'll get the ball here, sees it's dangerous, passes it back, and then the team can push up and it's a really high squeeze, and then they can squeeze Laporte. Maybe he can't play out from the back, they can't play the way they want to, and so he'll have to clear it and they lose possession. So it's an advantage to the opposition team in a couple of ways if Walker is not perfect for the role. Even John Stones has struggled with it, and he's talked about it recently. It's a big learning curve for him. Positioning, being unselfish, knowing when to create space for others, it doesn't come natural. Some players have this natural 360 vision, whereas he does not think he has that as a player who's constantly scanning. When you watch him, he's always scanning to know what's around him, but some of the players are just better at it than others. That's why you get Bernardo Silva is so good, why Rodri is so good. They receive and know where to turn. Kyle Walker doesn't have that exact skill set. That's one of the reasons that he's not as good in that position and why he won't be used there. And higher up the pitch, it also has a knock-on effect because you don't get the same passing circuits that you want, because the ball goes through Walker in these tight situations where you're trying to control the pitch. Walker isn't the best in the situation. You want someone like Bernardo Silva, or John Stones has proven he can do it. And so if you have someone like John Stones who's proven he can do it, but can then also give you the advantage of being an extra centre back when you need that, it's really useful. And then John Stones might even turn up in the box and head the ball across for Holland to score at the back post, as he did against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. So Kyle Walker will play for Man City. He's not done there, and he will play in lots of different games for different reasons. He's incredibly quick, reads the game really well, he's strong, and he can just play as a really attacking, wide player who allows someone like Mahrez or Foden to come off that wing and move inside the pitch. So he's very useful for that. And as we said before, really useful when you play against a really fast left winger or a striker, say Mbappe or Vinicius Jr., someone like that. So in this situation here, if you've got Akanji versus Vinicius Jr., you probably want to have Kyle Walker, because that threat is such that you can't play as high line as you want because he'll get in behind. We've seen it before in the past. Akanji is much better on the ball. So if you think you can control the game and limit it down this way and maybe stop them at source, that's why you play Akanji, because he can play passes that can break lines, can progress the ball and help move it around far better than someone like Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker, great player, suits certain things, but doesn't suit exactly what Pep Guardiola is trying to do right now. It'll probably change in the future, because it always does. And that's why Kyle Walker isn't playing for Man City at the moment, but will soon. Maybe, I don't know. Goodbye.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.